Hi guys, today we will write unit test in Python. We will be using Pytest, which is a very popular module for unit testing. First, we have to install Pytest. So let's open the terminal and we have to type pip3 install Pytest. Pytest is already installed on my system, so I don't have to install it again. But in your case, you can install. So let me clear it and close the terminal. Now we have to create the file which will contain the code which we are going to test. So let's create a file addition.py and here let's define a function. We are giving two parameters and it will return sum of these two parameters. Now let's create another function sub. Again we are giving two parameters. It will return the value of a minus b. So now our code is ready which we are going to test. It is a good practice to create the test file by the prefix of test underscore. So let's create the file test underscore addition.py. Let me split it on the right side so we can see the both our code which we are going to test and our test cases at the same time. First, we have to import the file which we are going to test. In our case, it is addition. Now we have to import the Pytest module. Now we have to create our first test case. Each test case should be named test underscore and the name of the function. So in our case, it will be test underscore add. Test underscore add. We need to use assert keyword because test primary rely on this keyword. It checks for conditions in your code and expects a boolean value of true or false. If return value is true, the test passes. If return value is false, test fails. So let's write assert addition.add and we are giving two parameters is equal to 9. So it will check 4 plus 5 should be equal to 9. Now let's create another test case test underscore sub assert addition dot sub 4 comma 5 is equal to -1. So our test cases are ready for both the functions. Now let's open the terminal and run the test. We have to write pytest and the name of the test file which is test underscore addition.py, and if we press enter we can see 2 passed and here we can see 2 dots which means 2 tests passed. Now if we change the value to -2, we know that it will fail because 4 minus 5 is not equal to -2. So let me clear the terminal. Now let's run the test again. Here you can see one failed, one passed, and we can see one dot here and one F. It means one test passed and one failed. And here we can see E, which mentions which area has failed the test. In our case, we can see assert -1 is equal to -2, which is not true. So that's why our test failed. Now let me clear it. We can also use pass if we do not want to check the test conditions. We just want to pass the test. We can comment the other code. And now if we run the test, We can see both passed. Here we can see two dots and these both test passed. We can also use multiple assert statements if we want to test multiple cases. For example, here we can write assert true and we can uncomment the other line and let's save it. Let me clear it and let's run the test again. Here we can see one test has passed, another one failed. It is because the first test condition is true and here there are two conditions. One has returned true, another one has returned false. All assert statements should return true in order to make the test pass. So let's fix it. Now let's clear and rerun the test. And here we can see both tests passed. Now, if we want to test a particular function, not these both functions, for example, if we want to test only this function, how can we do that? For this, let me clear it. We have to write Pytest and the name of the file which we are going to test, double colon, and the name of the function which we need to test. For example, test underscore add. In this case, we can see one passed and here we can see one dot. So it means it only tested one function which is test underscore add. Now, what if we want to select multiple functions? How can we do that? For that, we can create markers. Let me create a marker for test underscore sub function at the rate pytest dot mark. Let's mark it. We have to give a name for the marker. Let's give testing subtract and save it. Let me clear the terminal. And now if we want to only test the functions which we have marked with the marker, we have to write pytest -m and the name of the marker. In our case, it is testing subtract and -v. Now we can see it only tested one function which we have marked with our marker, that is test underscore sub. Although our test worked, but we see a warning here. It is because we have to register the markers which we have created. For this, we have to create a file pytest.ini. In this file, we have to register the marker. So let's do that. Pytest markers is equal to testing subtract, and we can write a description here for testing subtract function. Save. We can close this ini file and we can also close the sidebar, and let me clear it. And now if we run the test again, we do not see any warning. We see one test passed. So the marker is working fine. Right now we have entered the data in the function itself. But what if we want to send data from multiple sources like URLs or databases to the test before running the test? How can we do that? We can use fixture. Fixtures are type of functions that are applied to the functions to be tested. So they must run before the test is executed. For the demo, let me close it. Let's create a folder fixture for the demo. Let's create a file which we are going to test. Spellcheck.py. Let's define some functions here. Vector count. Let's give a parameter sentence. Characters is equal to length sentence return characters. So this method will return the length of the sentence. Let's create another function, first underscore character. First is equal to sentence and the index, return first. So this function will return the first character of the sentence. Let's create another function, last underscore character. And the index. So our three functions are ready. The last underscore character function will return the last character of the sentence. Now we have to create the test file. Test underscore spell check dot py. Let me open on the right side. We can close the sidebar. First we have to import the Pytest module. Next we have to import the file which we are going to test. In our case it is spell check. Now we will create a variable, text is equal to we are learning unit testing. Now we have to create a fixture, Pytest dot fixture. We have to create a function input underscore value. Input is equal to txt, return input. We have created the fixture function. Now let's write the first test case, test underscore length, input underscore value. We have to supply the input value in this test case. Now we will be using assert spell check dot character count, input value less than 50. Let's create another test case, test underscore letter, and assert spell check dot first underscore character, input value dot is upper. So it will check if the first character is in uppercase. Let's write another test case, spell check dot last character, input value is equal to G. Now our test cases are also ready. Now let's clear the terminal. First we have to go to the directory which is fixture, fixture. Let me clear it. Now let's run the test case, Pytest test underscore spell check, and here we can see both test passed, and we can also see two dots here which means both passed. Now let's write a dot here and run the test again. We can see one failed, one passed, and we can also see where exactly the test failed. So it is trying to compare dot with G, so which is not true, so that's why our test failed. Now let's fix it. Let me clear it. And also we can test the uppercase test case. So let's make it small and run the test again. Here we can see now our first character test case failed because the first letter is not in uppercase. All right, now let's clear it and let me undo it. If we run it now, we can see both tests passed. Let me clear it and we can see the last test. Let's make it 5. Now the length is not less than 5, so it should fail. Let's run it. And here we can see our first test failed. And here we can see why. It is trying to compare 28 with 5. 28 is not less than 5. So that's why our test failed. So let me clear it. Let's make it to default 50. And now if we run the test again, both tests passed. So in this way, we can write unit test in Python.